This is All India Radio. Now we bring you an exclusive interview with U.S. Embassy Consular for Consular Affairs, Don Heflin, and Educational Affairs Counselor, Anthony Miranda, to know about visa and educational facilities for Indian students planning higher education in the United States. The interviewers are AIR correspondents Sonu Sood and Arjun J. Chaudhary.
To discuss the various aspects crucial for students aspiring to go for higher studies to the US, we have two esteemed guests from the US Embassy. Don Heflin is presently the Minister Counselor for Consular Affairs in US Embassy in New Delhi. His first assignment was as Vice Consul in Peru. His subsequent assignments included Consul and Deputy Principal Officer Mexico, Consul in Zambia, Consul in London. His last assignment was as Minister, Counselor and Consulate Affairs in Mexico City.
We're also joined by Anthony Miranda, who is also a U.S. diplomat, served in various roles and capacities for the U.S. government in missions overseas, and he has handled public affairs and public diplomacy and has also served as a digital media advisor and a spokesperson for the government.
Welcome, Anthony. So to start the discussion, we would like to know from you, is it the right time for Indian aspirants to pursue their overseas plans for study and employment in the U.S.?
It's absolutely the right time for Indian students to pursue higher education in the United States. We actually, of course, saw a worldwide downturn in the number of foreign students due to COVID. But thankfully, those numbers have rebounded. And what we're seeing, a record-setting number of student visas. So we know that the interest is still there among Indian students and parents. And so we're really encouraging Indian students to consider the United States for higher education. Actually, there's no better time to do that. We recognize that Indian students contribute so much to the atmosphere, the academic rigor, and it makes American universities better. So we're excited to have them.
Well, Don, what is the scheduling for the appointments of visa interviews for students from the months of May to August this summer? And how is the wait time for visa interviews being reduced to alleviate the concerns of students and their parents?
We opened tens of thousands of appointments for the period June 1st to July 15th a few weeks ago. And we've been all along opening a few more slots each week. Our advice to people is to check in about twice a day, not to obsessively go to the website and refresh it all the time. That can get you locked out, but check in about twice a day. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, we will open up tens of thousands of appointments for the period July 15th to August 15th. We've already made plans to interview more students this year than we've ever interviewed before. Last year, we broke the record for the number we've issued, 62,000, and we hope to break that again this year.
This year, post-COVID, how well prepared is the U.S. collegiate system to process the intake of students from India?
I think that universities are really well prepared. Obviously, all universities are following the local guidelines of the community in which they're located to ensure compliance with any rules and regulations that are COVID-specific. Colleges themselves have robust medical care systems. So we don't really see COVID as a bar at all to welcoming students. As long as students have been vaccinated and, of course, receive a negative COVID test before travel, then they should be welcome.
Well, Don, what is the student visa day and when is it happening countrywide across the U.S. consulates in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore and Kolkata?
It'll be on June the 7th. It'll be fun. We're going to interview a lot of students that day. We're going to have senior leadership of the embassy will come downstairs and join us. And we'll all be wearing our kit from our favorite colleges.
What are the latest COVID protocols linked to the visa application that is strictly required to be followed by students from India when planning to travel, stay and study in the U.S.?
Okay, they're the same as last year. You have to be vaccinated. You don't have to have the booster. It's nice if you do. The two big vaccines in India are recognized. And then you have to have a PCR test the day before you travel, which our Centers for Disease Control has said really means the day you travel or the day before. So, for instance, if you're flying Thursday night, a lot of the flights leave here at night. You can get tested Wednesday morning. You get your result back Wednesday evening. You'll know if you have a problem.
Well, Anthony, specifically what kind of technical support is being extended by U.S. colleges to students in applying for a visa entry into the U.S. after the admission to the colleges has been confirmed?
Well, I guess I would want to start by letting your listeners know that the U.S. government is offering a lot of support to help students navigate the application process. And we do that through 8 advising centers called Education USA that are scattered throughout India. We've got a center in New Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore. And these centers provide unbiased, accurate, up-to-date information about how to research universities, which one is going to offer the right program for you and your interest. They're going to be able to provide information on how to research financial aid options and scholarships. Working together, of course, with our consular sections, provide information on the visa process as well. And what's great is, even if you're not living in one of those cities where the centers are located, we offer so many virtual and online programs.
And how has the eligibility criteria changed or been simplified for students in the post-COVID era in their application and admission into the education programs offered by colleges at U.S. universities?
I think the biggest change that COVID has brought to the application process is now many U.S. universities are no longer requiring certain standardized tests that had been required before, like the SAT or the ACT for undergraduate admission. So in some ways the criteria hasn't changed because of course universities are still interested in ensuring that they're accepting qualified candidates, exceptional candidates, but they're looking at the whole picture, whether it's the extracurricular activities, examples of leadership.
Well, Dawn, this year, post-COVID, have the travel restrictions for parents of students admitted to the U.S. colleges been relaxed? Are parents being allowed to travel to the U.S. for visitation purposes?
They have been relaxed. Last year, even if you had a visa, you couldn't travel because you had to have this special permission that you couldn't get. That's gone now. If you've got to already have a tourist visa, you can go with your kid. The other possibility is if you had a visa in the past and you're qualified for Dropbox, we had a pretty good amount of Dropbox appointments in the spring and the summer. If you grabbed one of those, you can get your visa renewed, you can go with your kid. The problem is going to be people who've never had a visa before. We're not starting first-time tourist visa applications till September 1st. So in that case, I would say to people, grab an appointment out in the future, keep that appointment, and then go visit your kid after they've been at school for a few months or 6 months or a year. It's fun.
Don, how is the U.S. Embassy and consulates in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore and Kolkata coping with the demand for appointments of visa interviews of students immediately prior to their travel and stay in the U.S. from the August of this year?
Last year, the way we coped with it was we basically abandoned almost every other form of non-immigrant visa. We can't get away with that every summer. This year we're better staffed. So basically we're devoting half of our capacity this summer to student visas. It's a lot. And we're concentrating them in the period July 1st to August 15th. Now, we know that last year a lot of students didn't want the appointments after August 15th. We also know that there'll be people who are nervous because they'll say, well, my appointment's August 13th and that's great. I'm supposed to be at school the 20th and I'll bet you're not going to get my passport and visa back to me in 7 days. First thing we tell you is work with the school. The school will usually let you show up a few days late. They just send you a letter. If that's not possible, we'll talk to you. But we've actually found that if you have an appointment for August 15th, you're almost always going to make it on time.
Right. Anthony, which are the specific restrictions lifted by the U.S. government on overseas travel by students from India?
We have not had a restriction on Indian students. Even last year, when we had a restriction on sort of regular travel from India because of COVID, we still welcomed students all last summer to the United States. And so that's sort of part and parcel of how important we think students are to our education system, how important we think students are to the U.S.-India relationship.
Dawn, how has the eligibility criteria changed for students in their visa entry requirements for travel and stay in the U.S. for the duration of the education program?
They're the same. You have to get admitted to an American school. They issue an I-20 form that you need to book your appointment and to come in and see us. Then you come in. We may ask you some questions about how your family is going to pay for it. We're doing that less, but bring the information just in case. But the most important part is this. You have to be able to tell us why you're going, why the school makes sense, why this area of concentration makes sense. We found, going back for COVID, that a lot of Indian students didn't do that well. We had a high refusal rate. Last year we had a very good crop. People did better about that, and we had a lower refusal rate. We'd like to have a low refusal rate this summer, and that's the number one piece of advice I can give the students is, once you've got all the pieces of paper gathered together, think hard. What's your story? What did you tell your parents? What did they tell you? What did you tell your best friend about why you're going to go to this school and study this? Tell us that.
Like a human being would, right? You don't want to sound like some odd robot parroting off facts and figures. It's got to be natural. It's got to be what drove you to choose this school. We want to see a little glimmer of that excitement.
Well, Anthony, you just spoke about the in-person experience, and a lot of this is happening online. Do you see a difference in the two? Clearly, what kind of assistance are we seeing both online and in person when you're applying to colleges and interacting with the consular and the embassy?
In person, of course, is always kind of great, right? There's something that we have lost after 2 years of COVID restrictions and we miss the opportunity to interact. But I guess I wouldn't want to discount the amazing ability that technology allows us to reach even more people. And so I would encourage folks, maybe you're not in a city where Education USA is located or where the embassy or consulates are located, but that shouldn't prevent you at all from researching universities, from being able to meet alumni from those schools, and really getting a sense for a particular university or a particular campus. Most colleges have some sort of promotional materials on YouTube, and I would absolutely encourage prospective students to check those out, but also videos that, current students just do on their own, and that's also a great way to get a feeling about a school.
Well, Don, when will the in-person B1, B2 visa appointments for interviews resume at the U.S. consulates? Is the online visa appointment for interview sufficient at this stage for students?
We will reopen live B1, B2s on September the 1st. We've already opened some. We'll be opening a lot more of those within the next week or two, so check in a couple times a day. And we will be having B1, B2 first-time slots going out into the future till nobody wants one again, okay?
Anthony, would you like to give any message to the students aspiring to study in the U.S.? Why U.S.? What are the advantages? Why should they go in for this?
Sure. Look, we know that there are a lot of options for Indian students, and that's to be expected. But what we think is that not only do U.S. universities provide an unparalleled academic experience, but it's everything that goes on top of that, which is the classroom discussions, the extracurricular activities, the alumni network, something that really can't be overstated, because when you join a university, you're also in some ways joining a family, and you're getting access to all of the students and alumni who once went to that school, and the ability to reach out to them. And that's really important when you think about your future career, because you gain access to this network of people that might be able to help you, might be able to direct you to a job opening or what have you. So those are really some of the things that I think make U.S. universities unique.
Well, Don, give us your Indian perspective. You are the Counselor for Consular Affairs at the U.S. Embassy in India. Do tell us what your experience has been in India, and would you like to add something in conclusion?
This was my second time in India, actually. I did a 2-year tour in Chennai in the 1990s. My daughter was age 2 to 4 then, just loved it. Indians are so good to children, love children so much. This is my second time around, and my wife and I have been traveling all over India. We like to go to all the corners of India. We like to go to the villages, like to see the different cultures. This is just such a rich country in terms of cultures and regional cuisine and regional art. My message to students would be this. We like issuing visas to students. We issue the vast majority. I know there's a lot of pressure on you, especially about the interview. We get that. But help us by telling us your story. That's all we want to hear. And we will do our absolute best to issue your visa if we can.
And Anthony, as Cultural and Educational Affairs Counselor at U.S. Mission to India, what has your experience been of India, if you could share?
No, absolutely. It's funny, when I first began in our foreign ministry almost 20 years ago, we get a list of countries where we have the opportunity to serve, and India was absolutely on my top 5. And ever since then, I've been trying to come back and trying to find the opportunity to actually serve in India. It's such a wonderfully diverse country with so many languages. The food, the dancing, the clothing. It's hard to actually pinpoint one thing, but I've had an amazing time here so far. Obviously, with COVID, we've all been careful, we've all been taking precautions, and it's really great to see and to have more opportunities to do some traveling throughout the country.
Well, it's been lovely talking to the two of you, Don and Anthony, on this program and informing our listeners about the visa appointment scheduling and, of course, the Student Visa Day, which is on June the 7th across U.S. consulates. So thank you so much for being with us on this program and informing us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Likewise.
You were listening to an exclusive interview with U.S. Embassy Counselor for Consular Affairs, Don Heflin, and Educational Affairs Counselor, Anthony Miranda, to know about visa and education facilities for Indian students planning higher education in the United States. The interviewers were AIR correspondents Sonu Sood and Arjun J. Chaudhary. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio.